The laughter echoed across the training yard, cutting through the morning air like shards of glass. Mike Donovan stood frozen, his weathered hands clenched at his sides, as 25 recruits, all younger, all seemingly fitter, snickered at the 38-year-old single father who dared to think he belonged among them. What they didn't know was that in exactly 4 minutes, their champion would be flat on his back, gasping for air, while the old man they'd mocked would become a legend in the department before even earning his badge. If you're moved by stories of underdogs who silence their critics through quiet strength and determination, hit that like button now and subscribe to see more incredible true stories of ordinary heroes who prove that appearances can be devastatingly deceiving. Mike Donovan hadn't slept properly in 6 years, not since his wife Sarah's car had been hit by a drunk driver, leaving him alone to raise their daughter Emma. At 5:15 that morning, like every morning, he'd already been awake for an hour, preparing Emma's lunch, ironing her school uniform, and reviewing her homework before dropping her at his sister's place. The police academy tryout started at 7 a.m. sharp, and Mike couldn't afford to be late. "You sure about this, Dad?" Emma had asked the night before, her 12-year-old eyes carrying a wisdom beyond her years. "You already work so hard at the construction site." Mike had smoothed her hair, the same chestnut brown as her mother's. "The benefits are better, sweetheart. Health insurance that would cover your asthma treatments completely. And the hours would let me be home when you get back from school." What he didn't tell her was how the construction work was destroying his body. How each night he soaked his hands in ice water to reduce the swelling. How the foreman had hinted that at his age, they were looking to bring in younger guys who could work faster. Mike needed this police job. It wasn't just a career change, it was survival. The police academy parking lot was filled with gleaming trucks and sports cars when Mike pulled up in his 15-year-old sedan. He straightened his simple gray t-shirt and navy athletic shorts, nothing fancy, but clean and presentable. Around him, recruits in their 20s with expensive workout gear stretched and chatted in easy camaraderie. "Name?" barked the officer at the registration table. "Michael Donovan, sir." The officer glanced up, his eyes quickly assessing Mike's graying temples and the slight stoop in his shoulders from years of physical labor. "Age?" 38, sir." The officer's eyebrows rose slightly. "You know the average age here is 24, right? And the physical requirements are no joke." "Yes, sir. I've studied the requirements thoroughly." The officer shrugged. "Your funeral. Group C, over by the track." Mike nodded and walked toward the designated area, feeling the weight of stairs following him. He'd expected this. What he hadn't expected was the open derision. "Look at Grandpa joining the force," a muscular recruit with a military haircut stage whispered to his friends. "Think he brought his walker?" Laughter rippled through the group. Mike kept his eyes forward, his face impassive. He'd weathered worse than this. The construction site had taught him that responding to taunts only encouraged them. Sergeant Rodriguez, the lead instructor, was a compact woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "All right, listen up. Today's assessment will test your physical capabilities, decision-making under pressure, and ability to handle confrontation. We start with the obstacle course, followed by the written exam, and finish with hand-to-hand combat scenarios." Her gaze swept over the group, lingering momentarily on Mike. "This isn't about who's the strongest or fastest. It's about who has the mental toughness to push through when everything hurts and your brain is screaming at you to quit. Being a police officer means showing up on the worst day of someone's life and being at your best. Remember that." The obstacle course was brutal, a quarter-mile track with walls to scale, tunnels to crawl through, weights to carry, and a final sprint. Mike positioned himself in the middle of the pack, neither pushing to the front nor hiding at the back. "On your mark, get set. Go." The younger recruits shot forward like racehorses, full of adrenaline and eager to impress. Mike maintained a steady pace, his breathing controlled. He'd studied the course layout online for weeks, planning his approach. While others attacked each obstacle with raw power, Mike used technique and efficiency. At the 8-foot wall, he watched recruits jump and scramble, wasting energy. When his turn came, he approached at an angle, using momentum and a precise foot placement to scale it smoothly. In the tunnel crawl, where many pushed with their arms, Mike used his legs as the primary driver, conserving upper body strength. By the 3/4 mark, the sprinters were faltering. Mike passed one, then another, his pace unchanged. His construction work had built a different kind of endurance, the kind that came from carrying lumber and steel for 10 hours a day, not from gym sessions. He finished 6th out of 30, his breathing heavy but controlled while some of the early leaders lay sprawled on the grass, gasping. Sergeant Rodriguez made notes without comment, but Mike caught the slight nod of approval. The written exam was next, situational judgment, basic law knowledge, and ethical scenarios. Mike had studied during lunch breaks and after Emma went to bed, often into the early morning hours. The younger recruits seemed surprised by the complexity of the questions, but Mike worked steadily through them, drawing on life experience they simply didn't have yet. Then came the part Mike had been dreading, hand-to-hand combat assessment. "This isn't about hurting each other," Sergeant Rodriguez explained. "It's about control, restraint, and protecting yourself while subduing a resistant subject. You'll be paired up based on size and weight." The muscular recruit who'd mocked Mike earlier, whose name tag read Brennan, stepped forward. "Sarge, I volunteer to go against the old-timer. Wouldn't want him to get hurt by someone who doesn't know how to pull their punches." More snickers. Mike's face remained neutral, but his stomach tightened. Rodriguez looked between them, her expression unreadable. "Donovan, you okay with this matchup?" Mike nodded once. "Yes, ma'am." "All right. Brennan and Donovan, you're up first. Protective gear on, standard rules. The scenario is, Brennan, you're resisting arrest. Donovan, your job is to safely subdue and handcuff." As they stepped onto the training mat, Brennan leaned in. "Don't worry, Pops. I'll make this quick so you can get home for your nap." Mike said nothing, focusing instead on his opponent's stance. Brennan was strong, probably bench pressed twice what Mike could, but he carried his weight high in his chest and shoulders. Top heavy. And he bounced slightly on the balls of his feet, telegraphing his eagerness. "Begin," Rodriguez called. Brennan charged immediately, clearly intending to overwhelm Mike with speed and power. It was exactly what Mike had anticipated. At the last possible moment, he pivoted, using Brennan's momentum against him while applying a subtle pressure to the younger man's elbow joint. Brennan stumbled but recovered quickly, turning with a look of surprise that morphed into determination. "Lucky dodge, old man." This time he approached more cautiously, feinting left before throwing a right hook. Mike blocked it efficiently, his movements economical. Where Brennan was all showy power, Mike was precision and timing. The exchange continued for nearly a minute, Brennan attacking, Mike defending, neither gaining a clear advantage. The other recruits had fallen silent, their earlier amusement replaced by genuine interest in the unexpected contest. Brennan was growing frustrated, his attacks becoming more aggressive but less controlled. Mike remained patient, conserving energy, waiting for the opening he knew would come. It happened when Brennan overextended on a lunge. In a fluid sequence that happened so quickly many observers missed it, Mike sidestepped, swept Brennan's supporting leg, and used the younger man's forward momentum to bring him down. As Brennan fell, Mike controlled the descent, ensuring his opponent wouldn't be injured but would be completely immobilized. 3 seconds later, Brennan was face down on the mat with Mike's knee precisely positioned between his shoulder blades, both arms controlled in a textbook restraint hold. The training yard fell completely silent. "Handcuffs," Mike said quietly, extending his hand. Rodriguez passed them over, her expression now openly impressed. Mike secured Brennan's wrists with practiced efficiency, then helped him to his feet once Rodriguez called the exercise complete. "Where the hell did you learn to move like that?" Brennan asked, rubbing his wrists, all mockery gone from his voice. Mike shrugged. I worked security at a downtown bar for 3 years while putting myself through community college. You learn quick or you get hurt. Rodriguez stepped forward. That was exceptional control, Donovan. Most recruits go for power moves that look impressive but escalate the situation. You used minimum necessary force and perfect technique. She turned to address the whole group. This is why we don't judge books by their covers in this department. Donovan here just demonstrated what years of real-world experience brings to the table. Raw strength is useful, but judgment, patience, and technique will keep you alive on the streets. The rest of the day passed in a blur of assessments. By the end, Mike's body ached in ways it hadn't in years, but he stood tall during the final assembly. Results will be posted within 48 hours, Rodriguez announced. Those selected will begin academy training next month. Regardless of the outcome, you all showed up and gave your best today, and that counts for something. As the recruits dispersed to the parking lot, Brennan approached Mike. Hey, I owe you an apology, he said, extending his hand. I was a jerk earlier. Mike accepted the handshake. No hard feelings. First impressions go both ways. I probably looked at you and saw every cocky kid who ever gave me trouble. Brennan laughed. Fair enough. Mind if I ask why you want to be a cop? Most guys your age are thinking about winding down, not starting a whole new career. Mike hesitated, then decided on honesty. My daughter. She's 12, has asthma that needs expensive treatments. Her mom died 6 years ago, so it's just us. Construction work is killing my back, and the hours mean she's alone too much. Police work offers stability, benefits, and a chance to be there for her when she needs me. Brennan's expression sobered. That's real. I'm just here because my dad and granddad were cops, and it seemed like the thing to do after the military. That's as good a reason as any, Mike said. Family tradition matters. Yeah, but it's not the same as what you're doing. Brennan seemed genuinely reflective now. Anyway, I hope we both make it. The department could use guys like you to keep hotheads like me in check. As Mike drove home, the adrenaline of the day finally wearing off, he allowed himself to feel a cautious hope. He'd held his own, more than held his own. For the first time in years, he could see a path forward that didn't end with him broken down physically before Emma even graduated high school. His sister Janet was waiting when he arrived, Emma doing homework at the kitchen table. Dad! Emma jumped up, running to hug him. How did it go? Did you beat up all the young guys? Mike laughed, lifting her despite his exhaustion. It went well, I think. And I didn't beat anybody up, we just practiced police techniques. Janet raised an eyebrow. Your daughter got a call from someone named Rodriguez while you were driving home. Said to tell you that the department hasn't seen natural talent like yours in years, and they'd be idiots not to fast-track you. Mike set Emma down, stunned. She called here? Said she got your home number from your application. Wanted to make sure you didn't spend the next 2 days stressing about whether you'd made it. Janet smiled. Sounds like you made quite an impression, big brother. Emma was practically bouncing. Does this mean you're going to be a police officer? With a badge and everything? Looks that way, sweetheart. Mike's voice caught slightly. It means better hours, better pay, and better insurance for your treatments. And you won't have to work construction anymore? No more coming home all hurt and tired? Mike knelt to her level. There will still be hard days. Police work isn't easy. But it's different, and yes, my body won't take the same kind of beating. Emma threw her arms around his neck. I'm so proud of you, Dad. Mom would be too. Later that night, after Emma was asleep, Mike sat on his back porch with a rare beer, looking at the stars. He thought about Sarah, about how she'd always believed in him even when he'd stopped believing in himself after dropping out of college when she got pregnant. "I'm trying, Sarah," he whispered to the night sky. "I'm trying to be the man you always thought I was." His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Donovan, this is Brennan. Rodriguez gave me your number. A bunch of us are meeting for breakfast tomorrow to celebrate making the cut. 8 a.m. at Denny's on 4th Street. No pressure, but there's a seat for you if you want it." Mike smiled, typing back, "I'll be there. Thanks for the invite." He took a final look at the stars before heading inside. Tomorrow would be the first day of his new life, not just as a future police officer, but as someone who had found his worth again. The laughter that had cut so deeply that morning now seemed distant and meaningless. What mattered wasn't what others thought when they looked at him. What mattered was what Emma saw when she looked at her father, and today, for the first time in years, he'd given her something to see that made her eyes shine with pride. 2 years later, Officer Mike Donovan sat in his patrol car, watching as Emma walked into her high school, her asthma well controlled thanks to the comprehensive health insurance his job provided. His partner, Officer Brennan, handed him a coffee. "Ready for another day of making the world a little safer, old man?" Brennan asked with a grin that now held genuine respect. Mike took the coffee with a nod. "Always." As they pulled away from the curb, Mike caught sight of his reflection in the rearview mirror. The gray at his temples had spread, and the lines around his eyes had deepened, but there was something else there too, a quiet confidence that had been missing for too long. Sometimes the strongest people weren't those who could bench press the most or run the fastest. Sometimes strength was getting up every morning to face another day when everything in you wanted to quit. Sometimes it was standing tall when others laughed, knowing that their laughter came from a place of not understanding rather than genuine humor. And sometimes, just sometimes, strength was showing the world that a single dad with nothing but determination and love for his daughter could take down every obstacle in his path, even the ones that seemed insurmountable at first glance.